Hello, I'm Dr. Josh Hand, and welcome to Lifestyle Locker Radio. This is episode 172. Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hand, and welcome to Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we help you create an awesome life and lifestyle. From nutrition to fitness, mindfulness to peak performance, and relationships to money mindset, we bring you on an amazing journey to help you unleash your human potential. So here's just a little bit about our guest today, Zach Poitra. He began drinking ayahuasca back in 2009. At the time, he was working in finance, and while he was successful, he found himself very dissatisfied and depressed. He knew that something was off. After some searching via other modalities, he decided to take a trip to Peru and attend a 9-day ayahuasca and shamanic deity retreat. In 2010, he moved to Peru, and he stayed there until mid-2014. When arriving in Peru, Zach began drinking ayahuasca and doing shamanic plant deities with the Galindo family. In 2011, the Galindo family and Zach opened up an ayahuasca retreat center called La Familia Medicina. La Familia Medicina conducted ayahuasca and shamanic plant deity retreats from 2011 to mid-2014. In late 2013, Zach gained the title of Maestro. In mid-2014, Zach left La Familia Medicina and began his solo career. This is really neat. So this took him on his own ayahuasca journey, which took him in many travels, and finally in 2018, he was able to settle in Guatemala on the shores of Lake Atitlan and create La Familia Ayahuasca. So without further ado, here's our guest today, Zach Poitra. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lifestyle Locker Radio. We have a really cool guest today. We're going to learn a lot. This is going to be like a science class for some people. This is going to be like maybe like an out-of-body experience for some people. Zach runs a company called Ayahuasca Family. So Zach, welcome, man. I'm pumped to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Very cool. So let's dive in. I want to hear, pre-show. We were talking a little bit, and understanding who you are now a little bit compared to what you did before, to me in my head is like two totally different human beings, and I'm sure you are at this point. But give people just a little bit of like background on who you were and who you've transformed to become now.
Sure. Yeah. Growing up, I came from a lower middle class family, and so I was very focused on business and money. I was very early on realized, hey, we're kind of poor and I don't like it. So I started working my ass off and ended up coming out of college, going into international business, doing import-export stuff. And then eventually was fortunate enough to be introduced to a job in finance, working as an institutional stockbroker back in, 98, 99, right before the dot-com boom. And I was lucky enough to become a broker at that time and make a bunch of money, and actually stayed in that business until 2010, essentially, when I moved down to Peru full-time to work with ayahuasca. And I thought what happened was I had everything, checked all the boxes on what should make one happy in our society. Nice house, nice car, travel all the time, going out all the time, dropping all this money, shopping, and blah, blah, blah. And after I would say 2008 or so, just got really depressed. And didn't realize I was depressed. I just knew I wasn't happy. It never even occurred to me. I didn't go to a therapist or anything like that to try to figure it out. I was just like, this sucks. I have everything, but no, I'm not happy. and I started to do some weekend retreats or weekend workshops, I should say, like Landmark Forum, and some NLP stuff, all kinds of like self-development weekend workshops, which gave me a temporary reprieve. But then I would always come back down. So I called it the workshop high, and I do take responsibility. I did not do the practices in every case. So I'm not blaming. Those workshops can be incredibly valuable, but I didn't follow through on my part in a lot of cases. I did one thing that during that time of searching before ayahuasca, I did come across Vipassana, a 10-day Vipassana retreat, and that was a giant step on my overall spiritual path, and it did get me into a regular daily meditation practice from that point on. Then, that was helpful, as I said. Still working with depression, anxiety, and I came across this article in National Geographic, wherein it was unusual because the author actually went and participated in ayahuasca retreat down in Peru, which is unusual for National Geographic. Usually they're observing, right? They don't actually get involved. And she did the whole retreat, did like 5 ceremonies, and she explained or described her experience. And she was working with PTSD and also depression, PTSD from being a journalist and working in hotspots. And she said, described her difficult, challenging times, but came out the other side much better off. I want to make it clear from the get-go, ayahuasca is not a magic bullet. It's not an insta-cure for anything. However, it can be incredibly helpful for these things like PTSD, anxiety, depression, and just general lack of connection, feeling stuck in life, and so forth. Really, really good for that kind of stuff. And so I read that article. I was like, right away, I was like, I got to go do that. And so in 2009, I made the trip down and did a week-long retreat, had 5 ceremonies, and also participated in what's called a shamanic dieta, whereas I was doing additional protocol with jungle tree barks, and that's a big conversation we can talk about later. But did that as well, and it was amazing. Ironically, the first night nothing happened, so I was really pissed off because I spent a shit ton of money to get down there, and I was like, "What? This is it." Then the second night, boom, kicked in, and it was Hindu dancing Hindu gods and all kinds of crazy stuff, and little spirits operating on my body, opening me up, and all this sort of thing. And it was amazing, beautiful. Wasn't a puker, I was a pooper. I spent a lot of time in the bathroom.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into that. Some questions on that.
Yeah. And then came out the other side. I had worked through a lot of stuff around my step parents, previous relationships, and then a lot of subconscious stuff that I didn't recognize until later. And it's stuff like interacting with other people, just feeling much more connected, much more relaxed. The anxiety had subsided, and just generally a lighter, cleaner, clearer outlook on life. And after that retreat, I did not think that I was going to return very quickly to Peru just because of a time standpoint. And yet 6 months later, I was down again. Did the same retreat or similar retreat over again. Another wonderful overall experience. And it was at that time, I was like, okay, I want to make this a bigger part of my life. That is ayahuasca and these ceremonial practices. Fast forward 3 months from that, I quit my job. A couple of big deals came through for me at work. I was like, whoa, I'm sitting on some cash. I can go hang out in Peru for a good period of time. And the original idea was to just do personal work. Take 6 months, do a bunch of personal work. I wasn't happy. It was very clear at this point that, look, I can kind of Band-Aid my way through my work by doing these ayahuasca retreats, but I'm just not happy with the work. And so quit my job, we'll go down, plan was to go down and do 5-6 months of personal work, doing a bunch of shamanic dietas, doing a bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies, and then come out the other side and figure out what to do. I had no plan beyond that. And I was fortunate enough to find this small village, Jenaro Hererra, which is about deep in the jungle, 4.5 hours by speedboat outside of Iquitos, south of Iquitos. And I found this group of shaman, and we would drink ayahuasca in their living room about 3 or 4 times a week. Would be able to do shamanic dietas on a regular basis, probably twice a month. And I just hung out there. And that's where I met my teacher. My teacher told me a dream that he had, wherein he and I were serving thousands of gringos being Westerners, medicine. And I was like, whoa, that's, because I didn't want to be a shaman. I saw what they had to go through, and I'm like, fuck that. That's hard. I don't know if I can handle it. And so when he told me that, I was like, well, is he asking me to work with him? And that night we went into ceremony, and I asked ayahuasca directly. I said, hey, am I supposed to be doing this? And is Gumercindo, Maestro Gumercindo, is he my teacher? And she was very clear. She was just like, yep, and yep, get on it. And so talked to him, Maestro Gumercindo, and his father, Maestro Don Roldan, after ceremony. And they were like, está bien, let's do it. And so we built my first retreat center, which was La Familia Medicina in Peru. And that was in operation until mid-2014. And then I went off solo. And currently we have La Familia Ayahuasca, which is also Ayahuasca family. And that's where I am here in Guatemala on Lake Atitlan, which is a beautiful lake surrounded by volcanoes and San Diego weather year round.
Way cool. So, I mean, it's just, that's an awesome journey. It's a wild journey nonetheless, but it sounded like you really, people like to base success on monetary things. And that's like such a common misnomer. And I think, you can be successful, right? Create money. But going through that inward journey, you realize, which is great. A lot of people, I don't think, even realize that they need to start to look inside. You're going through NLP and going through all of these different things, searching for what was going to work for you. I know I said pre-show that I've done firewalks and all of these things. I was young. I was a kid when I do this. So the experience that I had then was very different than what I would experience now. I mean, very powerful then, because, my educated mind didn't have all these barriers put in front of it, right? Like, this is not possible. This is not possible. This is not possible. You're not worth it, whatever it is. So for you, finding all of these little things, these stepping stones, was really neat. I mean, it kind of, I don't know if it was meant to be, right? Like, you're kind of like directed, by mistake or by chance or by just taking the right steps that you actually needed to create what you wanted to in your life.
I would say it was fumbled to be. I did not have the plan, there are plenty of people who are like, I want to go become a shaman. I was not one of those people. In fact, I got sucked in kicking and screaming. And subsequently, several times I've been like, I'm done with this. Fuck this. I'm out, but get pulled back. It's like the mafia.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. So let's
jokingly so.
Yeah. No kidding. So let's talk a little bit, because ayahuasca, people have heard of it. They've heard, I guess there's another type, I guess, of thing that people have done in different countries that are similar to ayahuasca. But I know ayahuasca is like the big deal, like the big thing. So what is ayahuasca? So people can understand, like, what is this? What is this thing that people are going to South America to do? Like, why am I taking a week out of my time, go into a jungle,
to change
away
my life
from everything, and sit through this ceremony? And you're talking about pooping and puking, and it's like, wow, that sounds like, let's do that. Sounds amazing. Let's go and throw up for a week, type of thing. So I want people to have an understanding, one, what it is, and then go through some of the process of what it's like when someone comes down and goes through an experience? Like, what type of, expectations do people have when they show up? And I don't, right? Is that cool?
Preferably none, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, good. So actually, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. That's why this is a great starting point.
Great question. And okay, so we can start with the very basic ingredients. It's a tea, or the physical makeup. It's a tea. Generally, not always. The two main, it always will have the ayahuasca vine, and then it has some sort of DMT or 5-MeO DMT leaf that they put together as the base recipe, and then they boil it down for anywhere from 12 to 24 hours, maybe even longer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cases. Yeah. So highly reduced, lots of plant material, and then they just reduce it, and there's a long process there. But so the ayahuasca vine has, main thing is MAOI, and then you have the DMT leaf. So you need the MAOI along with the DMT so that you can ingest it orally, and so that the experience is longer than the 10 minutes that you would have if you otherwise you have to smoke DMT, right? Or do it intravenously, which I guess intravenously you can make it last longer, but if you smoke it, it's like a 5-10 minute experience really fast. Whereas ayahuasca with the MAOI and it coming through your gut, you being a doctor, you'd understand this, it allows for the experience to be much longer in time. The ayahuasca also has some harmaleines in it as well. But this is all from the scientific standpoint. So from the way it's used or has been used, it's used as literally as a medicine in the jungle, and it's also a sacrament. And we can talk about that a little bit more. So as a medicine, it's really, as I mentioned before, really helpful for depression, PTSD, anxiety, feeling disconnected, at those points where you're not sure what to do, kind of thing.
A mind medicine, if you will.
A mind medicine, and it has a physical aspect to it. So it's very somatic, and that's why you end up pooping and throwing up. Because the analogy I use, it's very akin to the meridian system. If we look at the energetic body as meridians or nadis in the I think it's Ayurvedic or yogic systems, we need to unblock those energetic channels such that the energy is flowing as it should, such that we have health and well-being. If those channels are kinked up or blocked up or too tense, and it can be tense from an energetic standpoint, but there's a connection between the energetic and the physical, obviously. And we know that through acupuncture, right? So ayahuasca goes through and opens those up, both creates or causes a relaxation and also kind of punches through those blockages. And when we have a blockage, I like to say that you get energy buildup, and that energy can putrefy. And what she does is she pulls all that putrid energy into your gut, and you either poop or you puke.
You're saying she, meaning the ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, I'm sorry. Yes.
I was making sure.
Ayahuasca is referred to as in our tradition is a feminine deity, and throughout Peru and Colombia, they have some lineages that look at it as a masculine, but that's a different subject. So she goes through and opens up all these channels and releases all this putrid stuff. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we've had people like puke and puke and puke, people who are really energetically crossed up and have a lot of stuff to clean out. This is not everyone. This is an extreme case where they'll puke and puke and puke and be like, how did I produce this much puke? I didn't eat this much. And it's like, hey, you got all this stuff in your system that she's going through and cleaning out. So she works on the energetic and physical. I am a bit hesitant to say, oh yeah, she's good for this issue or that issue from a physical standpoint, because we don't have enough research to say, okay, if you have the thing that everyone goes to is cancer, right? If you have cancer, go take ayahuasca. And it's like, no. Generally, ayahuasca is or not generally, but originally ayahuasca is used in addition to other plants, where they prescribe other plants as part of a shamanic dieta to help whatever ails them physically. And ayahuasca was used as a diagnostic tool such that the shaman would be able to see what's going on. Also ask ayahuasca, what plants do I need to prescribe in this shamanic dieta to help heal? And then at the end of the process, they drink ayahuasca again to just make sure the work has been done, or maybe we need to do add more plants or prescription to the process. So it was a diagnostic tool as well. Now, what has happened is and this is where we shift into more of a sacrament. Once one cleans out the gunk, so to speak, then it can shift into more of a sacrament where you're learning things about the divine. You're connecting directly with divine. You're having these experiences with Jesus Christ or Buddha or depending on your cosmology, your propensities and so forth.
Yeah, like the universe, if you will, right? Like
the universe.
Right?
Yeah, you're just connecting, and depending on your background and your propensities, the different deities will show up, and that's where we start getting into the sacramental use, because we have people who we work with or have been working with for years who, they're already pretty much cleaned out, and now they're drinking ayahuasca to connect with this higher spiritual realm, if you will. We are very careful, though, that people are not using ayahuasca as a crutch. And in a lot of cases, most cases, not always, but most cases, we're looking for people to fire us, just like a good doctor would expect to be fired as well. We want to get you clean, feeling good, balanced, and on your way. If you come back for cleanups because of our society and so forth, that is fair. But we we really want people to learn practices like meditation and yoga and qigong that can keep themselves clean energetically after they leave the retreat. That said, we live in a really complex world where it's very easy to get traumatized and stressed out and need to kind of do a re-up, if you will. But ultimately, our goal is to be fired.
Yeah, no, that's quite interesting. So when someone from the States will say it comes down, what does a retreat look like? So walk me through, because I'm thinking in my head like, oh, I'm going down for a few days and I'm out of there. Or is this like a week-long process?
Yeah, we recommend that people in general, for particularly their first time, do at least 3, because that allows some really deep work to be done.
So 3 sessions with ayahuasca?
Yeah, over a short period of time, say over a week or something. We offer, and it's pretty standard for ayahuasca retreats to offer between 4 and 5. We offer 4. Our retreats are 8 days, 7 nights. And so that allows for, we do first night, people roll in. It's just a rest night. They've been traveling and get to know each other. We throw in some additional practices, such as a sound healing bath with no ayahuasca first night, just to get people relaxed, get in the roll of things. And then next morning, since we're on Lake Atitlan, Guatemala, ayahuasca is not indigenous to Guatemala. And so from a spiritual standpoint, we feel it's very important to show respect to the local people and spirits to ask for permission. So we bring in a local Mayan shaman, this amazing guy, Tomas, who does a Mayan fire ceremony. And he gets us in that ceremonial, once again, getting us in that ceremonial mindset, does a purification, asks permission for us to do this work, gets everything set up for ceremony that first night. Then we do 2 ceremonies in subsequent nights, a night off, 2 ceremonies, and then a final night off. It's a forced rest night, because we get lots of entrepreneurs and people who are, I got to get back to work. Da, da, da. It's like, okay, well, guess what? We're going to make sure you get at least 1 night of rest before you head back into the fray of things. It's really important. Ideally, people will take a day or 2 for integration, just relaxing, taking time, taking space, just to reflect on what they learned and so forth during the retreat. But if worst comes to worst, we have imposed at least one day of rest, doing as little as possible relax and recover because it's an exhausting process. It's not easy. It's challenging on a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual level. It is truly a holistic medicine from that standpoint. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a magic bullet by any means. There's some people out there who are marketing it in a way that sounds like it's a magic bullet, and I do not agree with that at all.
Yeah. So with like a session, so it's drinking the tea, right? Drink the tea, and then what? I mean, I don't need like, what you'd say like to me, but is there a process, like, because you said you're a shaman and you have to go through this whole crazy process to be part of this tribe, right? This mafia, right? Of shaman. But I mean, I have no idea what it takes. I have no idea what it entails for you to do for, the people that are showing up.
Sure.
Are you just overlooking? Are you facilitating?
Well, we're okay. So this is where it can get a little esoteric, and I'll give you the outline of the ceremony to begin with, and then we'll get into the more esoteric stuff. So, sunset, our lineage always does this work ceremony in the dark, all lights off. This is not the case for there are other lineages and traditions. There are as many ways to do ayahuasca as there are to do yoga, and everyone thinks they're right. So just for listeners to realize that there's a lot of different ways to do this. In our lineage at dark, and we prepare people. We take them, and this is not traditional, but we take people through an embodiment meditation so they can relax before ceremony. Then we sing Icaros, medicine songs, into the medicine itself, because we're cleaning out any energetics that may have accumulated in travel or just sitting around. We're also infusing the medicine with more medicine, if that makes any sense. The Icaros, the songs themselves, are a carrier mechanism for medicine. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So we're infusing with more medicine. We call people up one by one after we've sung into the medicine to take their dose, and we go around the circle. Everybody takes their dose. We have a kind of a standard dose, but we do adjust things based on people's previous experience and also their sensitivities, if they have no experience, to sensitivities to other things like mushrooms or LSD or even alcohol. We try to get a good read. We want to get people in the sweet spot where they're in the medicine but not out of control. And we like to say we're not stingy with our medicine, but we are conservative with it, and we'll work with you to get into the sweet spot. Once everyone has been served, lights go down completely, and we start singing Icaros and the medicine songs, and we're singing for. And when I say we, it's myself and my wife. We're singing for a good solid 5 to 7 hours straight. And as I said before, we have a standard way we start the ceremony in terms of the songs we sing, but we do not have a playlist. Once we get past those first, say, 3 Icaros that are the essentially energetic protection, then we let the medicine tell us what to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And
are you using it at the same time?
Yes. It opens, when we drink it ourselves, it opens the doors of communication and perception with ayahuasca. And then ayahuasca says, okay, hey, Zach, you got to sing the Ayahuasca Retreat right now. So I'm like, okay. So I'll sing that Icaro. And then after that's done, she'll be like, now Remo Caspi. And so then I'll sing that one. So ayahuasca is using us as an instrument to deliver medicine via sound to people who already drank medicine, and that activates the medicine in their bodies. And then, then she goes with that, goes through and in the guest bodies and provides things like visions, psychedelic colors, patterns. They can see energy. It can be very somatic. It can be very emotional. Some emotional stuff that's been repressed may come to the surface to be released. It's very individual, and it can change night to night. The main thing that is going on is ayahuasca is cleaning, healing, and teaching. Those are her priorities, and those are our priorities as facilitators, as shaman. If you listen to the lyrics of the Icaros, it's clean, 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 heal, 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 pure medicine, pure medicine, pure medicine. Throw this out, throw that bad thing out, throw out the bad thoughts, bring in the good, all this. It's very repetitive and very clear as to what our intention is, and that's clean, heal, and teach. And that's what she's doing. And she does that through, again, visions, through sometimes shaking as she'll be going through and opening up those energetic channels, and it creates if there's resistance, it creates a shaking. It also, as she's cleaning things out, it creates vomit, it creates pooping, it creates sweating, it creates, sometimes emotions will come up, crying. It's all about bringing stuff that we've been repressing to the surface, or the toxic either trauma or even physical stuff we've eaten or drug use or so forth in the past is going to get cleaned out with ayahuasca.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So I've had some pretty profound experiences doing like multiple meditations in a row, these guided meditations where I don't know how to say this any other way, but like being connected to spirit or whatever you want to call, where time for me stood still. Like it was an hour meditation. We did, I think, 3 or 4 or whatever it was, but I thought my eyes were closed for like 5 minutes type of thing. Right.
Yeah.
So when people are having this, they're going through their experience with ayahuasca. Do people tend to have those types of experiences, like a first session? Like for day one, or it's everybody's very, very different. Very different.
So it depends on your starting point. So for someone like you, who's done a lot of this personal work and is clean diet and all this sort of thing, you're starting from a very different point from, a guy like myself who was working on Wall Street. I took decent care of my body, but I drank a lot and smoked a lot of pot and that sort of thing. So we would be, if we had started at the same time, you may go into those non-dual spiritual states much earlier than I would have. I don't know. We can never tell, right? Can't guess. And when but there, it is somewhat common at some point in the ayahuasca, if one does ayahuasca a lot over a period of time, and I'm talking like years and so forth, to that non-dual, crystal clear, open Buddhist spaciousness, if you will, that can happen. The stopping breathing, you ever in meditation that can happen where you just stop breathing. You're like, oh wait, I wasn't breathing. That can happen. And those really high spiritual states can happen. And interactions with things like Jesus Christ, like interactions with Buddha and interactions with Shiva, Ganesh, and so forth. And at the same time, it's really important that people realize it's not, I would not point to ayahuasca as a pathway to enlightenment. These are temporary states, and just like it's really, I would take the view, I lean Buddhist in the sense that these experiences that we have, yes, they can be enjoyable and instructive and so forth, but to hold on to them, to grasp onto them, actually is counterproductive. And not everybody takes that view and follows that type of advice. Not everyone follows the Buddhist view. The point being is that we can have quasi or enlightened states in ayahuasca, but I wouldn't say that in it by itself, ayahuasca is not the path to enlightenment. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
It can be helpful on the path, but I wouldn't. If ayahuasca were the path to enlightenment, we'd have a jungle full of enlightened masters in Peru, and we don't.
Okay, fair enough. So for someone like me that loves, and I say personal growth, I don't just mean going to like a Tony Robbins seminar. I mean reading and learning and doing. this something that anybody could or should go to?
Well, there's definitely some, we need to be careful. And this is, if anyone's looking at an ayahuasca retreat, there's some definite contraindications. Antidepressants are quite dangerous to mix with ayahuasca. You need to titrate off of that. High blood pressure depends on where you're at on that. If you're really high on the scale and it's a real issue, then it's not safe. Hypertension, high blood pressure are the same thing. A history of heart issues is a no-go. Type 1 diabetes and diabetes in general we've got conflicting. We have some research saying it's quite helpful. So that's kind of a case-by-case situation. Epilepsy is questionable. We just any kind of pharmaceutical medication we need to look at, and if we can get off of it, we need to make sure it's not contraindicated. In terms of mental health, we need anyone with a history of schizophrenia or psychosis. They're not a good candidate. No, because if you're not in touch with reality and then you go further out from reality, it's not going to help you come back. You know what I'm saying? So that's not good. There's deep depression. I think is questionable. Just that I don't know if you can call it a standard run-of-the-mill depression. It can be quite helpful for depression. It's quite helpful for me, but there is a point in which it's just like when someone has just a total negative outlook about everything.
Yeah, like the pessimist.
Complete pessimist. Yeah, and depressed pessimist may not be great. PTSD is, again, at varying degrees. This is why when in our process we have people fill out an application, they let us know what they're taking, or if they're taking, what their health is, and so forth. And then we have a Zoom call like this so that we can talk and I can see what kind of person you are, and you can see me, and we need to see. I think it's really important to have some sort of rapport with the person who's taking you through this process. I think that's what makes it a little difficult for people going to South America, because oftentimes the shaman isn't even available for that kind of call, wouldn't speak English and so forth, and then in the process can't speak English either. So that's something that the gringos are kind of bringing to the table, is we're able to relate. And I feel that the Zoom call prior to the retreat really helps create that rapport and trust. And if we don't like each other, if I don't like you or you don't like me, we should just stop it right there. Go find someone else. In fact, just yesterday, I had a Zoom call with a couple of their applications were great. They had experience and so forth. We got on the call and I was like, whoa, this is not going to work out. Our personalities will not work. I'm sorry. Thank you, but I'm afraid we're not a good fit. So yeah, I would say it's definitely not for everyone from a physical and mental health standpoint. And then, we need to find it once we get past that. If there's a true desire to work with ayahuasca, then there needs to be a good fit with the facilitators and the guests.
Yeah. So that's great. I was going to ask, like, you have to have some kind of like vetting to get people into the system. That is perfect answer. So, I think of myself right now, as an athlete, someone that puts my body through some pretty stressful situations. And, we spoke before, I'm doing this 100-mile ultra and we're recording this before it. Do you have, is there any experience that you've seen with the people you've worked with that are like athletes? Do people have, like, coming home, have they had any cool experiences, I love running in nature, right? I'm an outdoor, like, I'm not a treadmill person. I'm running. My favorite thing is in the woods, that's because I just feel like no headphones, just me and the noise, right? Or no noise, I should say. I was just wondering, as an athlete, not necessarily in a performance to make me a better athlete, or maybe I am thinking that, like, is this something you see, like any kind of athletic performance?
It could be, in the sense that, when you're in a flow state, you will perform better athletically, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so doing things like ayahuasca, and I think that book about flow talks about doing things like ayahuasca as a kind of greasing the neural pathways of getting into the flow state. When we feel, flow state is that feeling of connection, and when you go out in nature, if you do ayahuasca for a week and you go out running in nature afterwards, you're going to feel nature significantly more than pre-ayahuasca. And so in that sense, yes, and also from if one, in our competitive culture and competitive sports, we tend to kind of be we're aggressive towards ourselves intellectually and emotionally, and that gets in the way. I'm not an expert on this, but maybe I bounced it off you. But if someone is constantly beating themselves, oh, fuck, I didn't do it right. I lost. That's not helpful in the progression of being a competitive athlete. In fact, dropping that is key. And so that's where ayahuasca can help and again, at a temporary level, because in order to keep that stuff going, that's where meditation comes in. That's where these other practices come. So ayahuasca primes the pumps on this particular point, primes the pumps so that if you want to start or reinvigorate a practice post-retreat for like 2 weeks, it's the perfect time to start a meditation practice, to start a qigong practice, or all these things. So in that sense, yes, but if we did a study direct, I think the performance would be negligible. But from a mental state standpoint, absolutely.
I was just thinking, when you're, especially for an ultra endurance athlete, it does this. You're with yourself for hours on end, and music is a way to distract yourself. Or try to use that as your energy base, if you will, which I will if I'm on a treadmill, it's beyond boring in my head. So I'll put a book on. If not a book, I have to put a song on repeat almost. So I have that energy I get lost in the sound. But definitely in nature, I think I can only imagine because of, what you're saying, what I've heard other people experience during these retreats, that direct connection. And I never even thought of flow state. I never even thought of, I've read a lot on it. I just have not thought of ayahuasca as almost like a detox. A pre-flow detox type of thing, right?
Totally. And again, it also would open up the neural pathways kind of in training things to get into the flow state.
Wow.
But there's effort to be made post-retreat to keep that going.
Totally. Like anything else in life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I wish I could just take a pill and everything be perfect.
But what's the fun in that?
It's true. It's
right?
true. Yeah.
I think, I hate the word suffering, but I think going through challenges and going through pains and going through things and coming out the other end are so powerful. Like that's where learning actually happens. If you're just handed everything, okay, what's the deal? I'm thinking ayahuasca, and I'm when you first mentioned pooping or puking, I spoke to a friend that had done one. He maybe this past year when did an ayahuasca retreat, but this was one that was heavily depressed, that was on medications and the whole 9 yards. And he's like, man, it was the worst thing I ever did. I just threw up for 10 days straight. And I'm like, okay. And I've heard the most amazing experiences, So I'm like, something doesn't make sense with his experience, to me at least. I'm like, I've heard people throwing up and I have pooping, but I've heard vomiting and feeling that sickness, if you will, that as a purge. But maybe because he was on those medications or whatever it was that he was on.
Particularly if he was on for a long period of time. So even though ayahuasca will go through and clean out not only the physical remnants of the medication, but also the energetic signature. So, one can titrate off of antidepressants or other medications, doesn't matter. And it's not, from medical standpoints, Western scientific standpoint, it's not there. But guess what? It's in the energetic and actually in the tissues, and she's going through and cleaning that out. So, if he was on medications and or had a shitty diet and or drank a lot, all this stuff, yeah, he's got a lot of stuff to clean out. Years and years and years. And if he had trauma, blah, 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 blah. And, most cases, and he may have, again, it's case by case, and severe trauma situations and where we can tell the person is really crossed up energetically, we would suggest the shamanic dieta first, or maybe something like combo, which is a frog. I don't know if you've heard of combo. It's a frog venom medicine. Totally different podcast.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff to talk about. But do these other things first to do some of the pre-cleaning before going into ayahuasca. And so ayahuasca, that's why the vetting process is so important. It's like, hey, is this an approach? Is ayahuasca, jumping to ayahuasca, is it appropriate? Or do we need to look at some other stuff first?
Well, that's where your expertise and your training is, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah. And this is where I get a little frustrated hearing about, now that ayahuasca is kind of trendy, is hearing people go to Peru, or even less trending than that. They go to Peru for like 2 months. And then they do underground stuff in the United States. And then we've also just hear people who just like, they just think that they can do ayahuasca ceremonies and put on ayahuasca ceremonies, but they don't have training or experience on what happens, how to vet from beyond just the basics of the contraindications. And also if things go sideways, we have training, shamanic training, to help people move through their challenging moments. When they're screaming bloody murder, we can help. People don't have training, we'll just take them to another room and put them in a shower and hope everything works out, which is not good. That can actually re-traumatize or traumatize someone. We, our goal is safety first. And we got to be sure we can handle what's being put on our plate. For example, we don't accept anyone who's going through drug rehab, recovery. Post-recovery, post addiction, having gone through whatever, and they're clean and they've been clean for a year or something like that, yes, we'll bring those people on. But if someone's coming with a problem around addiction, we're like, no, that's not our expertise. There are people who work with ayahuasca and do addiction, but we don't have enough experience there. We don't have the expertise. We need to be really careful about that.
Yeah. So how frequent do you end up putting on these retreats?
Yeah, there's a dry and rainy season, or two dry seasons and 2 rainy seasons on the lake here. And so from November to April, we'll do once a month, and then we'll also do July and August. So essentially 8 times a year when we're in the high season, once a month. And so, yeah.
Good. No, I'm not thinking. So, and how right now, what's the best way for people to connect with you to learn it? I mean, this is a pretty lengthy, pretty good. I think we got some really great information for people to understand, at least, right? To have a very good basis on what you do and how you do what you do and what makes you actually a little different than maybe the others that may be doing it.
Sure. And there's a broad spectrum out there on that point. Broad spectrum of people offering ayahuasca. I would suggest people be careful, do their homework. And there's some great people. We're not, I don't want to say we're like the best around. We may not be a good fit. There's some people who really want to go drink with a indigenous jungle shaman in the jungle. And by all means, go do that. That's not us. We have training from the jungle. That's where we cut our teeth, so to speak. But that's a different. We bring in some other Eastern and also Western modalities into the mix, and we think it's valuable. That's it. I'm going on too long here.
Best ways.
Cool. Our website is ayahuascafamily.com. Our email is info@ayahuascafamily.com. We have podcasts for those who really want to go deep. And this is one of my goals, is to take the conversation really deep with ayahuasca, because what's out there is a lot of talk about experience and not much deeper than that. And so we've got, I want to say 12 or 13 podcasts up on Stitcher, SoundCloud, and iTunes under Ayahuasca Family. So if you put in Ayahuasca Family, you're golden. You'll find us.
Great. That's good. So everybody, make sure you definitely head over to his website. In the show notes, you'll have all of his details, best ways to connect, and just hopefully you can find yourself and get on a Zoom call like we're on right now, so you can maybe see if it's an awesome fit for you. And you can head over to lifestylelocker.com/ayahuasca family, and you'll find all of those details there as well. So final questions I remembered, so I'm going to ask it. Top 3 things you'd have someone do tomorrow or even today to help them unleash their human potential a little more.
Well, top one that is so overlooked, and I think you probably bring this up on your podcast, diet and nutrition. Mm-hmm. People overlook this. It affects everything, your mood, your energy, your intelligence. Look at your nutrition, what you're putting into your body. That is foundational. This is weird coming from an ayahuasca shaman who probably, you think I'm going to say, ayahuasca. No, I would look at diet. I would also look at movement, exercise, get moving. And then number 3 is mindfulness meditation, something that gets you aware of how your mind is working, and maybe even out of your mind and into your body. Stop that monkey thing going on. And those 3 things I think are absolutely foundational. And then, of course, ayahuasca.
Number 4, baby. Number 4. That's great, right? So we have food, movement, mindfulness or mind, right? And then the expansion.
Exactly.
Very cool. Yeah. Zach, this has been one hell of a great conversation. I am glad we actually got to connect. It's been a little challenging figuring our schedules out, but I'm pumped that we're able to do it. I learned a whole lot more than I bargained for, because I coming in as a complete newbie and, learning from an expert versus Dr. Google for me was great. Right. And I think our audience is going to absolutely love this. And I'm sure hopefully we'll have people connecting with you, because that you mentioned, we have a lot of athletes, right? You mentioned flow state. You mentioned all these things. We have a very healthy minded audience and people that want to be healthy minded, if you will. So I think you're a fantastic fit. Lifestyle Locker and myself, we're psyched to have you. It's part of our family now too.
Yeah, it was a great podcast. Thank you. It was very enjoyable. I appreciate the opportunity.
You're welcome. I hope you did enjoy that episode with Zach. Learned quite a bit about ayahuasca and the power behind plant medicine. Please connect with him. Check out all his details in the show notes. And if you want to get out to a retreat, please do. Let him know we sent you there so you can have a powerful, powerful experience. And also, if you have not yet gone over to iTunes and checked us out and gave us a 5-star review, please leave one. We would love it. It helps us, but it also helps our guests. It's powerful, the connection that we get to have together by sharing these episodes with you. So please, please, please get over there, give us that 5-star review, like us on social media, follow some of our content. And if you have questions or you want a new guest on the show, just let us know. We will reach out to that person that you want us to get. As long as it's a great fit for us and a great fit for the person, we will do our best to make it possible to have them for you. So once again, I'm Dr. Josh Hant, and that was just Zach Poitra on La Familia Ayahuasca. We will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.